Welcome back, everybody. And this is Political Hot Seat Thursday night. Just a few minutes ago, we had a caller named George who called, and he got the gift certificate for the Red Sky Barbecue, the $20 gift certificate, which he needs to pick up after 12 o'clock tomorrow. But George, we would wish you call back at 727-8750 so we can get your phone name and your phone number. That is 727-8750, because in order for me to have them make out the gift certificate, we need to know who they're making it out to. So anyway, we are here with the candidate and the judge for District 5, Robert Lane. Mr. Lane, we were talking about marijuana and you having a drug rehab, or whatever you call that.
You should hear Bill's conversations when the camera goes off for commercials. He does a really good job. He brought up some good points, and I thought I should address them regarding the marijuana. Bill mentioned, he said the pot they used to smoke back in the 60s, a lot weaker than what they smoke now. It has a lot stronger THC content. When you smoke pot or drink alcohol or take a drug, it makes the dopamine and the other chemicals in your brain, nerve synapses, fire off, giving you pleasure and so forth. And then Bill was asking me during the break if I am, based on my experience in the drug court, does the marijuana lead on to other things? And my answer was, yeah, pretty much normally it leads on to, because they get used to that high and they move on to other highs. And I'm talking generally speaking. You can always point to somebody it didn't lead on to heavier things, but there are a lot of them in drug court where it did lead from a little bit of alcohol and then pot, and then they went on to bigger and better things.
Like say the person that drinks a beer doesn't necessarily become an alcoholic, but yet a person that drinks a beer can become an alcoholic.
Sure, some of them do, yeah.
And back when I went to college, which was back in the 60s, what we had was what they called homegrown or whatever. You sat around, you sit and eat some potato chips and popcorn, you sit there and look at the TV and say, oh, wow, man, you know, and that was it.
Yeah, and I haven't followed it.
Mild and meek. Today they lace this stuff.
Yeah. You know, and the truth is I haven't really educated myself on the issue, but like somebody who calling in from home might want me to have been super educated on it. I've been kind of neutral on the issue like I am most things. But I'm hearing on the internet, you see occasional feedback that in Colorado they're starting to experience some problems with drivers and other things where they're thinking, oh, maybe this wasn't the right way to go, but we'll see how it goes. I have a feeling the pendulum's going to keep swinging towards legalization around the country for a while, and then, you know, maybe there'll be some negative ramifications and it'll swing back a little bit.
Well, I think it's too soon to come out with everything on what could go wrong. That's how come I think, even like in our county, if we pass it, we need to know the possibilities of what could go wrong versus what could go right, and make some type of a judgment on what you can, you know, otherwise you don't want a distributor giving it to somebody because the doctor says they should have it, but then yet they're sharing it with their neighbor. I mean, where does the law go from there?
I don't know, I'm so busy about worrying about how to raise my kids right and stuff that I just kind of wait till it comes in front of me in court and then I make the decision.
I'm just saying altogether they need to come up with these things. It's just like driving. Okay, I smoke cigarettes, which may be the reason why I'm the way I am, but I just don't see the effect of a cigarette like on marijuana when it comes to driving in that. My reactions are the same in that on normal. Well, back when I was in college, marijuana made you slow.
Back when you were in college, right, Bill?
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know about nowadays. I got to be very careful about what I do nowadays. I mean, but
what's the old internet joke? A guy who's drinking runs a stop sign, and a guy who's toking sits at the stop sign waiting for it to turn green.
Yeah,
something like that. But anyway, having done drug court for 12 years, I've had a lot of experiences with people that were addicted, and I kind of just wish we could get everybody clean if possible, but to each their own, you know.
Well, that would probably be the best way for society all the way around, but it's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Because you could have one person say, well, you could go out drinking, so why can't you do this? And I always say, two wrongs don't make a right.
But, you know, and in my church, we're not allowed to drink alcohol or use drugs and stuff. And my joke was, what if a doctor said that I needed to smoke pot for something, and you know, is it okay then in the church to smoke pot? And they said, oh yeah, if a doctor says it. And I said, oh, my shoulder hurts. It's kind of bothering me.
I got a pain in my shoulder. I got a pain in my neck, you know. Well, all right, we do have a caller. Go ahead. Flagman?
Hey, it's the Flagman. Yeah, how you doing?
Oh,
Hi,
we're
Ray.
doing great.
Yeah, I got a question for Judge Lane. My question is pretty simple. I sit in these courts for the last 12 years, and I need to know when these jury trials are going to get kicked up to a reasonable time period, because right now we're waiting for years for jury trials. You got to be able to do something, Judge, to speed this up. Either back them up with another, like a secondary or something, because it's ridiculous. The courtrooms are always empty, and it's disgusting knowing people are in the cell waiting for jury trials forever. So if you can answer that, I'd appreciate it, and you can tell me in person when I'm in the courthouse someday.
Thank you, Ray. I do see Ray in the courthouse all the time, and I get the chance frequently to talk with him about what's going on in the courthouse and the different attorneys. And Ray, because he's what you call like a gadfly, a person who sits and watches court all the time, he sometimes knows what's going on better in the court and the problems they're having than sometimes the people working there do. Currently, our schedule, my schedule, you know, each judge is different. One judge may have trials scheduled out 2 years. My schedule currently, I'm setting trials for about February, March, which isn't too far. A guy comes in front of me in court next week. We'll be looking at March, February, maybe April. A lot of it has to do with the attorneys who want 6 months to prepare for the trial and to be able to subpoena the expert witnesses and prepare for the trial and so forth. We have tried different methods in the past of double stacking and triple stacking and trying to figure out ways to get trials on sooner. And I have a really great secretary, Louise, who moves things around and gets them on quicker when the attorneys say they're ready to go and they want to have the trial. But I've had citizens come up to me out in town frequently and say, why do I have to wait a month or 6 months to have my divorce or whatever? And don't blame me. I'll have court next week if the attorneys and everybody were ready and would come into court and do it. But it's trying to get the attorneys, get everybody's schedule to a certain day and get the expert witnesses ready and then get the attorneys ready to go. When we double and triple stack them and one goes off, we'll then call the attorneys on the next one and they'll say, oh, I can't do it. I've got a federal case or another state case. And if you ever chat with my secretary, Louise, she'll be the main one to get an earful from on how she's trying constantly to schedule those trials and work with the attorneys and the witnesses and the defendants and the juries, you know, having enough time to call the juries. It's a little bit of a logistical nightmare. In the old days, it used to take a year or more before we could get trials on. We've got it down to about 6 or 7 months now that we can get the trials on, the criminal trials. Civil trials, somebody comes into me tomorrow and wants a divorce, I could do it next week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, just depends when the attorneys are ready. I hope I answered your question, Ray, and if not, when I see you in the courthouse, I'll talk to you some more.
Okay, I got a question.
Yes,
a
sir.
Divorce. The two people agree on everything. Can they just come in before you and get it taken care of?
They
or?
can. They don't even have to come before me. If they prepare the forms together and sign off on stipulated divorce, they can just submit the paperwork and we'll sign off on it as long as everything's done correctly. And as a matter of fact, that's how 70–80% of our divorces are done. The people who don't agree on some things get set for a hearing to come in front of me. And like I said, they're usually 1 to 4 weeks we can get a divorce done and sorted out, depending on the attorneys. If you have attorneys that
Yeah, well, they can
slow
drag
and
it
drag it out
on
and-
quite a while, you know.
Yeah.
Felony cases, I want to stay out of jail as long as I can, so I fire my attorney and get another
Well, sometimes
attorney.
they got
You
good
guys-
reasons, good reasons sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, I hear that all the time about, okay, I fired my attorney, I want a different one, so now, what, I get another 6 months to...
When I first became judge, friends of mine here in the community from church or somewhere would come up and say, hey, who should I hire as an attorney for this or that? And I'd give a recommendation. I'd say, well, for divorce and custody, this guy and this guy are both pretty good. And they would go out and hire them, and then they'd come back to me 6 months later and say, he was awful. Because no attorney's great on every case. They're good on some of them. So I learned real quick not to give recommendations.
Yeah, you just stay neutral on it. You find the one you like the best.
Yeah.
You know? I want to remind everybody to please register to vote and go out and vote. If you don't vote, you have no reason to complain about who wins the elections. And George, if you would call back again at 727-8750 so we can get your phone name and number for that gift certificate at Red Sky Barbecue. Thank you very much. And this is it for this Thursday. We will see you next Thursday. Everybody have a great weekend.
Take
Thank
care.
you.